Alright, now let's see a variation of conditional statements called nested conditional statements, which is nothing but writing if statements inside if statements. Let's take this example scenario to understand more about this. Let's say there is a supermarket which is offering special discounts to senior citizens, which means customers whose age is greater than or equal to 60. So if the customer is a senior citizen, this is how discount is applied. So if that particular customer has membership, then 30% discount is applied. If not, 20% discount is applied. Now, if the customer is not a senior citizen, which means if the age is less than 60, then this is how discount is applied. So if that customer has membership, 10% discount is applied. If there is no membership, no discount is applied at all. So if you observe here, this is kind of branching, right? If age is greater than or equal to 60, we are doing something. And if age is less than 60, we are doing something. And even here, we are checking if the person has membership and we are then deciding the discount. So here our goal is, let's say a customer purchased items of $1,000 or 1,000 rupees. We want to apply the discount based on the age and membership status. Based on that, we want to apply the discount and we have to find the final price. So this is the scenario. Let's see how to implement this logic in Python. So I'm continuing in the same Python file, conditionalstatements.py, which we created in the part 1 lecture. So as usual, I've kept a descriptive message inside a print function. Now here first, let's take the details of the customer. So let's say age of the customer is 70 for now. And let's also create another variable called has membership. So this is a Boolean value. If the customer has membership, the value will be true. If not, the value will be false. Now, what we have to do is, based on the age, we have to create two branches. How we can do that? We can use if statement. So here let's create an if statement. If age greater than or equal to 60, then we want to do something. Now inside this if block, let's not write the logic right away. First, let's create the two branches, which means if age is greater than or equal to 60, that's one branch. If not, that will be another branch, which is nothing but else block. Now, when you don't want to write the code block right away, we can use something called a pass statement, which is nothing but writing this pass keyword. So this works like a placeholder for your code block. And we can use this pass statement not only with if statements, but we can use it even in code blocks of while loops or for loops or even in functions. So what generally happens is when we have to write very big programs, we can't write the whole program at once. Sometimes what we do is we write some partial code, we test it, and then we write some more code and then we test it. And this is how we generally complete the program in multiple iterations. So in such cases, when you don't want to write the logic inside either loops or even in functions or in conditional statements, we can use this pass statement as a placeholder for the code block. All right. Now let's also write the else block. So we go here and else, and here also let's put a pass statement, right? Now if you remove this pass statement here, for example, here in the if block, if we keep it blank, then what happens? If you see here, there is a small underline, right? Red color underline. So which means there is one syntax error. So if you try to run this program, even here we can see that there is some indentation error. Expected an indented block after if statement, which means we can't leave this block blank. You have to write something. So when you don't want to write the code, we can simply use this pass statement as a placeholder. So here we did not write any logic inside these if and else blocks, right? So what happens when we execute this program is age is 70. So this condition will be true. But here we have just simply written pass. So it does nothing and goes out of the if statement. Now we have created the two branches, which means if age is greater than or equal to 60, that will be one branch. And if not, which is the else case, that will be another branch. Now let's see what we want to do if age is greater than or equal to 60. Then what we do is based on membership, we will decide discount. If the customer has membership, then the discount will be 30%. If not, the discount will be 20%. Now first let's write the logic for age greater than or equal to 60. So let's remove the past statement. Now here what we have to do is we have to check the membership. So if has underscore membership. Now this has membership is a boolean variable, right? It has a value true or false. So this can directly be used as a condition because boolean condition is nothing but any expression that evaluates to true or false. So we put a colon and press enter. Now we want to write logic inside this if block, right? So again the code has to be indented. That's why when you press enter, automatically the PyCharm has created that indentation for you. Now if the customer is a senior citizen and has membership, so what is the discount? It is 30%, right? If you remember from the diagram. Now we can print 30% discount is applied. And in fact, let's do something better. Instead of simply printing the message, let's also calculate the final price after the discount. For that, what we can do is we can take the actual cost price, which is, the cost of all the items the customer has bought, and then we can subtract the discounted amount. So we should have created one more variable here. Let's do it now. Let's say cost price. Let's assume 1000 rupees or $1,000. All right. Now what will be the final price? Final price. Let's create a variable final price and let's assign the expression to this variable. So what is the formula to find the final price? It will be actual price, which is cost price minus the discounted amount. Now if the discount is 30%, what will be its value? It is 30 by 100 into cost price. That's the discount, right? Which is nothing but 0.3 into cost price. So the final price will be cost price minus 0.3 star cost price. Nothing complex here. It's just the simple math formula, right? So, okay. So this is the final price. Now this inner if block is completed. So let's press enter and go back here. And here we have to write else block, isn't it? So let's write else. Now what should we write in this else block? So this else case is when the age is greater than or equal to 60 and when the customer has no membership. It is this particular case, right? So this is the case when age is greater than or equal to 60 and membership is not there, right? So we have to apply 20% discount here. So here let's apply 20% discount and find the final price. Okay. So let me just copy this whole thing and place it here. And let's just simply modify this code. 20% discount is applied and here final price is equal to cost price minus 0.2 into cost price, right? Because we have to apply 20% discount. So that's it. So we have completed the logic for this particular branch, which is age greater than or equal to 60. So we have completed logic for this particular branch. Now we have to write logic for this branch. Let's do it. So let me delete this pass statement. So let me simply first copy this whole thing and let me paste it here and we can modify this code, right? So if the age is not greater than or equal to 60, then what should be the discount? This is the case, right? So then we have to check if the customer has membership. If yes, then 10% discount should be applied. If not, 0% discount should be applied. So here, if the customer has membership, we should apply 10% discount, right? And the formula will be 0.1 into cost price. And when the customer's age is less than 60, and if the customer also has no membership, then 0% discount should be applied, right? So let's simply write 0% discount is applied. And here final price is same as cost price, right? Because discount is 0. So let's simply remove this. So as you can see, this is our final logic. And also take a moment and observe the indentation. So if you see, this is the outer if statement, right? If age greater than or equal to 60 and then else. So these started at the start of the line, isn't it? And the logic inside these blocks should be starting at this indentation, right? So here also you can see it started in this indentation. And here inside this if block, inside this particular if block, if you see, we are writing an if block again. So again, the code inside this particular if block should be indented, right? So that's why you can see another indentation here. So this is how code blocks should be properly indented in Python. All right, now what else? So we have calculated the final price. So let's just simply print. So final price is, and then comma, let's write final price variable here. So it will simply print this message final price is, and it will display the value of this variable final price. Now let's see this example. We have cost price as 1000, age is 70, and the customer has membership. So what happens? So it first checks this, if age greater than or equal to 60, it is true. So it gets inside this if block. Now it checks if the customer has membership. So has membership is true. So it will get inside this. So it will print 30% discount is applied, and final price will be 1000 minus 0.3 into cost price, which will be 300. So the final price will be 700, right? So it should finally print final price is 700. Let's run this program and verify. You can see, 30% discount is applied. This is printed and final price is 700. Now, why is this value shown as a float 700.0 and not simply 700? Because we know that in an expression, if at least one of the operands is float, your overall result will be float. We learned about it in arithmetic operators lecture, if you remember. So when we calculated this final price, we are using this 0.3, 0.2, 0.1, which are float values, right? So eventually your final value will be a float. Now let's test with one more set of inputs. When you write some logic, right, it's important that you test your code with various inputs just to make sure your code is working as expected. So let's say that has membership is false. All right. Now cost price is 1000 and age is 70. Now what happens? So it gets inside this if block because the age is 70. Now has membership is false. The customer has no membership, so it will get into else block and it will execute these statements. So it will print 20% discount is applied, and what will be the final price? 1000 minus 0.2 into 1000, which will be 200. So final price will be 800. Let's verify that. Right click, run. So you can see 20% discount is applied is printed and final price is 800. In fact, 800.0. Now we have tested this particular branch, right? We have seen both the cases when the customer has membership and when the customer doesn't have membership. Now let's verify or test this branch as well. So let's take age is equal to 50, right? And now let's take has membership true. Now what happens? So it gets inside this else block. Now has membership is true, so it will execute these statements. So what will be the final price? 1000 minus 0.1 into 1000. So the value will be 900. Now if you right click, run, we can see final price is 900.0. So till now we have tested this block, and this block as well using different set of examples. So let's also test this block as well. All right. So let's take age 50 and has membership false. All right. Now it comes inside this else block, has membership is false. So it will execute this. So it will print 0% discount is applied and final price is equal to cost price. Simply the same amount, 1000 will be printed. So let's see, right click, run. So we can see final price is 1000. And here you see 0.0 is not there because we assigned this integer 1000 to this cost price variable, right? And here we are simply assigning the same cost price to final price. So we don't have any calculation with floats. That's why our output was integer value. But in fact, when it comes to prices, these are generally floating point values, right? You will have, $100 and 50 cents, something like that. So let's put 1000.0, that will make more sense. All right. Now let's run this again. So we can see final price is 1000.0. One thing you have to notice is when you are testing your code, you have to make sure every block of code is tested, which means you have to take different inputs such that each input will test for each block of code. If you observe in the last 4 examples which we discussed, each time we verified one block of code, right? This is called test coverage. So it's not just about writing logic, you also have to develop the skill to test your code. All right. As you go along the course, you will gain more and more expertise on how to test your code. And just like the other conditional statements like if else or if else, even in this case, this whole thing is considered as one big if statement, inside which we have other if statements. That's why we call this as nested if statement. All right, I hope now you understood nested conditional statements. Now let's see a special operator called ternary conditional operator. So where do we use it? So we use it to write concise one-line version of simple if-else statement. It is useful while assigning a value to a variable based on condition. Let's see one example on how we generally assign a value to a variable based on condition. So here let's say we have a variable called score and let's assume score is 80. Now let's say we have another variable called result to which we want to assign a string called pass if the score is greater than 40. If not, we want to assign a string called fail. So how can we do that? By using normal if-else statements, we can write if and condition score greater than or equal to 40. Inside this, what we can do is we can assign value to this result variable, which will be pass. All right. If not, which is the else case, here what we can do is we can assign this string value called fail. All right. So this is how we generally assign a value to a variable based on condition. But we can do this in a much simpler manner by using ternary conditional operator. So let's see how we can use ternary conditional operator to simplify this. So this is how we can write expression using ternary conditional operator. So let me explain what happens here. So here this whole expression will evaluate to pass if this condition is true, else it will evaluate to fail. And we are assigning this expression to this variable called result. So this will evaluate to pass or fail. That value will be assigned to this result. Here the condition is score greater than or equal to 60. Okay, instead of 60, let's assume 40. 60 sounds a bit too harsh. So let's say that score is greater than or equal to 40. The value will be pass, else the value will be fail. So here score is 80. So this will be true. So this pass is assigned to result. So if you try to print it, it will print pass. So let's simplify this using ternary conditional operator. So let's say result is equal to pass, and here we will write if, and then we have to put the condition score greater than or equal to 40. And remember one thing, we are not going to put a colon after this condition, while writing this syntax. We simply write the condition and then we also write else, again no colon, and then we'll write fail. So if this condition evaluates to true, this whole expression will evaluate to pass. If the condition is false, this will evaluate to fail. So that respective value is assigned to this variable result. Now let's simply print result, and let's just print the variable result here. All right. Now score is 80, so it should print result colon and then pass. So let's run this program. Right click, run conditional statements. We can see result pass. Now let's say score is 30. Then what happens? So this condition will then evaluate to false. So this expression value will be fail. So result value will be fail. Now if you try to run this program, we can see that result fail. So basically both these are doing the same thing, but here we can write it in a very simplified manner. And it need not be only when assigning the value of the variable. If we want, we can even print the value of this expression, by putting it inside a print function. Even now, if you try to run this, score is 30. So this expression will evaluate to fail, right? So it will simply print fail. Let's run this. As you can see, it is fail. So this whole thing is just like other expressions like a plus b or a star b, right? This is also an expression. And this particular if else is called ternary conditional operator in this context. And why do we call this ternary operator? Because if you see, here we have one string value, here we have another string value, and here we have a condition. Condition will evaluate to true or false. So, that is also a Boolean value. So we can say we have three operands in this case. That's why we call ternary conditional operator. With this, I hope that you got a good understanding of conditional statements in Python. I'll see you in the next tutorial.